I know, it's probably a bit too late for New Year's resolutions, but hopefully it's not too late to learn a new foreign language this year. In today's video, I'm gonna share with you my plan of how I'm gonna achieve fluency in Spanish. So after watching this video, you can do it too, in any language you want. I decided to pick up Spanish because I feel like Spanish is one of my language failures, or at least I felt so. So, to be crystal clear and completely honest with you, I know some basics. I used to listen to a lot of Spanish YouTube videos, Spanish music, just because I like the sound of the language. I also joined some Spanish courses at the university, but it was 3 years ago and I was also learning German at that time. And I finally decided to focus on one language, and it was German. So I've never achieved the level of fluency in Spanish. I was never able to have more complicated conversations in Spanish. And I feel like a lot of language learners are stuck in this place, where you kinda understand something, more or less, but when people use more advanced vocabulary, you of course don't understand, and you cannot really express yourself, because the only thing you know are just some basic sentences, like me llamo Yolita or ¿Dónde es el baño? This is not really a level of fluency in my opinion, because what fluency means to me is that you can feel comfortable while speaking, and you can have different spontaneous conversations on a variety of topics. In today's video, I'm gonna share with you the exact steps that I'm gonna take to simply become fluent in Spanish, to be able to understand more complex conversations and also take part in them. This is my main focus for this year, and actually there are just 10 months left. But I still think that this is a pretty reasonable period of time to achieve fluency on the understanding that you have some basics. There are people who claim that you can achieve fluency much faster, so you may wonder why my goal is actually 10 months. And the answer is that you can achieve fluency much faster simply if you study more, if you spend more time on it. If you study a foreign language for 8 hours per day, because maybe this is your job, for sure it is possible to achieve spoken fluency in just a few months. But I still want to maintain all of my other responsibilities. I want to work, I want to create YouTube videos for you guys, I want to maintain my mental and physical health, I want to have some social life, spend time with my family and friends, and take care of my cat. I have some serious stuff to do. So I think that achieving fluency in 10 months, taking all of this into consideration, is pretty realistic. I plan to study for 1, maybe 2 hours per day, and maybe I will skip some days occasionally. I will try not to, but I know it can happen. I want to be pretty flexible, so I'm not gonna share with you my plan for every single day for those 10 months. But I'm gonna tell you what's the most important. So I'm gonna tell you what I'm gonna study and how I'm gonna study. If you subscribe to my channel, you will have an opportunity to see my future videos, where I talk about all the things that I realized during this journey and all the things that are important during this process. So if you are interested in it, subscribe. If you have any thoughts, questions or tips, comment down below, because I'm looking forward to a discussion. Input-based learning is not enough. I say it because I've experienced it. I did a lot of input in Spanish, mostly through listening, and I can confidently say that listening makes you better at listening and understanding, but it's not gonna break your language barrier. So the problem with input-based learning is that it can create this weird feeling that you can understand a foreign language but cannot speak it, and you feel totally speechless. So you know a lot of words possibly, which means that you can understand them, but you cannot really speak because you are not familiar with using them. So the problem is that they just don't come to your mind when you want to translate a sentence from your native language to your target language. However, there are some advantages of listening, and one of them is that it is relatively simple to do. It doesn't require that much effort to find an audiobook and play it. And you can also multitask a bit, so you can clean your room or cook dinner in the meantime. And this is actually something that I recommend you to do in my other videos. So I think it is a good method, and I haven't changed my mind about it, But I think that there is a time when it's good to go one step further and do something a little bit more uncomfortable. I want to go out of my comfort zone in these 10 months and transform my passive vocabulary into my active vocabulary. I'm gonna practice my active language skills by journaling, by writing my own texts and articles, by translating texts from my native language into Spanish. I'm gonna prepare some presentations and record myself, and I'm gonna practice conversations with my tutor. There are actually a lot of ways of how you can practice output, and most of them work pretty well, so this is what I'm gonna do. Passive versus active listening. Let's go back to listening for a while, because even though my main focus for these 10 months is mostly output, it doesn't mean I'm gonna stop listening and reading. It is essential to learning new vocabulary from a context and new expressions often used by native speakers. There is passive listening and active listening. Passive listening is when you don't pay attention to spoken words, and active listening is when you try to understand every single message. Whenever I feel a bit lazy, I use passive listening, and it gives me an impression that I study a bit and that I learn new words. But I think that active listening is a real game changer. I noticed a huge difference between passive and active listening. Active listening is way more demanding, but it gives better results. And what I mean by active listening is to sit down, watch a video a few times, write down new vocabulary, translate new vocabulary, rewatch the video and try to understand everything and remember all the new words. If you do it a couple of times, you will for sure notice a difference between this and listening to a foreign language while cooking a dinner. I think that passive listening can still improve your language skills, but active listening is way more effective. Grammar. There are some well-known polyglots who say, don't study grammar, don't try to memorize grammar, it is a waste of time. And I politely disagree, because I didn't study grammar. In fact, I even gave up on Spanish because of a past tense. The thing is that you cannot really tell any story that happened to you if you don't know it. So I remember looking at all of those conjugations, all of those irregular verbs, and it was late at night. I was also studying German at that time, and I just thought it didn't make sense to continue it. So eventually I only learned some basic Spanish grammar, mostly from a context. And you know what? It didn't make me fluent. I realized I really need to master Spanish grammar to be able to take part in conversations. The simple reason why you need to master grammar is that it gives you confidence. You come across differently while speaking. You know how to create correct sentences. And of course, some mistakes can happen from time to time, but the important thing is that you are aware of the rules. I didn't learn grammar, and I remember I was all the time unsure if I used the correct conjugation, the correct tense, and it's really uncomfortable feeling. So my advice is do some of those boring grammar exercises that everybody complains about, because I think it will help you so much. You know, you will know conjugations, you will remember the tenses. I think it's gonna be such an improvement. And this is also something that I'm gonna focus on during these 10 months. Don't treat grammar like it is an elephant in a room, because you need to know how to combine words into sentences correctly. I cannot even imagine speaking English fluently without knowing grammar. And I mean, knowing the rules and doing some of those grammar exercises. It gave me just so much more confidence. So grammar is definitely something that I want to focus on. Avoid this trap. I know that there are a lot of videos of people who claim that they achieved fluency by self-studying a language. And if it works for you, that's completely fine. But I've noticed that it just doesn't work for me. And I think that it's not gonna work for people who are extroverts. According to my research, extroverts make up from 50 to 74% of the population. so it's the majority of people. But to be honest with you, it's hard for me to decide if I'm an extrovert or an introvert, because I really like spending a lot of time alone, but on the other hand, I also like spending time with people, and I feel like meetings with other people only give me more energy, especially with the people that I like. I don't even know if it makes sense, because people claim that you can be either extrovert or an introvert, but I really feel like a part of my personality is an extrovert. And I noticed that conversations with other people or some language classes really give me more motivation to study. Self-studying a language can be very demanding for extroverts, and it can be also hard to have those natural conversations on your own, or maybe even impossible. I believe that the main purpose of the language is to actually communicate with other people, and if you only self-study a language, this part is missing. So there are a few options for people like me. You can either join a language course or find your own tutor or find a language partner. This time I decided to go for the most pricey option, but I think the most effective one, which is finding my own tutor. I've already found my Spanish tutor, and I will join classes once a week and study a lot on my own as well. The reason why I think that having your own tutor is the best option of all is that classes are intensive and adjusted to your needs. You can practice all the time and get constructive feedback. I noticed that I actually need somebody to tell me to do my homework. I need some external motivation. So this is my plan for the next 10 months. I think that if you follow the exact formula that I shared with you, you can easily become fluent in any language you want. And I hope it was helpful. I will try it out myself. So if you subscribe to my channel, you will see my future videos where I talk about my progress and probably more of language learning tips. If you have the same issue as me, that you can understand a foreign language but cannot speak it, I share with you how to change it in one of the videos that is visible on the screen, because I went through this process while learning English and German. And if you wonder if it makes sense to learn multiple languages at the same time, I also have an experience of learning English, German and Spanish at the same time. And I did a research on this topic. So if you are interested in it, check out the other video that is visible on the screen. See you there, and thank you for watching.